Retreat series, Dhamma talk number 43. It's all about Buddhism, but we built about Buddhism around the meditation practice of mindfulness insight. So today we will discuss about our practice based on a sutta or discourses delivered by the Buddha. The name of the sutta is called Rohitassa Sutta. Discourses on Rohitassa Deva. He's an angel. His name is Rohitassa. So that is at the time of when Buddha was alive. There was a great and powerful Deva or angel named Rohitassa. One day a thought arose in him. It was just like us, sitting and thinking, where is the end of the world? Or what is the end of the world? Just that thought arose, and that curiosity became very strong. So what he did was, as he's so powerful, he traveled in all 10 directions, north, south, east, west, up and down, and all the corners, in all directions. With his great powers, he traveled and he traveled and he traveled, look for the end of the world, where there's nothing. He wants to know where there's nothing, the end of everything. But he traveled and traveled in all directions, but in vain. He couldn't find the end of the worlds. So he was quite disappointed, couldn't find it. And at that time he heard that there's a Buddha. A Buddha has arose at the human realm. He who knows everything. So Buddha means he who knows. Then so he went to the Buddha and asked the Buddha, he posed a questions. If one walks, walk and walk and walk to the end, by walking through, will he find the end of the world? Or if one takes a, let's say modern walk is supersonic vehicle and travel across the universe, would he able to find the end of the world? Or if one uses great psychical power, supernormal power, and look for it, would he able to find the end of the world? That's a question he posed. He wants to find the end of the worlds. When he posed that way, the Buddha said, the techniques that you have posed or applied, if you use these techniques, you would not find the end of the worlds. But if you want to find the end of the worlds, travel into the worlds of the 5 aggregates. If you travel or explore or investigate in the worlds of 5 aggregates, you will find the end of the world. That's a Buddha answer. So we need to know what Buddha meant by 5 aggregates is. 5 aggregates in English. And Pali is Pincha Khanda. Pincha is 5. Khanda is aggregates, or the body. Some in English they translate as the body. But aggregate is more appropriate word. Pincha Khanda, or 5 aggregates. If you travel inside that, into that 5 aggregates, you will find the end of the world. So you have to explore. You have to explore this, the worlds of 5 aggregates, or you have to explore the phenomenon. And as there are 5, what is the first one? The first one in Pali is called Rupak Khanda. In English, aggregates of materiality. Okay? Aggregates of materiality or aggregates of matter. Know the word aggregates, not a single unit. Whenever you say matter, in that matter there are so many components exist. You cannot say as one. It's an aggregates, composite. Okay. So that word is important to know. So if you explore into the aggregates of the matter or materiality, you'll find that is one thing. So to simply put it, how can you explore into the aggregates of materiality? Just don't have to go anywhere. You look in your body, from your toe to your hair, anything, anywhere, everywhere, that is, you can find this aggregate of materiality. So that is Rupa Khanda, one, aggregates of materiality. The next one is called Vedana Khanda. Vedana is feeling, Khanda is aggregate. The aggregates of feeling, you have to explore, you have to travel into that world of feeling. So, what is that? Aggregate of feeling means simply there's a pleasant or unpleasant or neutral sensations always arising in this body, in this 5 foot, 6 foot, 7 foot body, always arising, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That's called Vedana. You explore into that aggregates of feeling, the second one. And the third one is called Sanya Khanda. Sanya Khanda. Aggregates of perception. That's in English. Translation is called aggregate of perception. What it is whatever you are observing in this body, okay, you cognize whatever object that you are observing, you cognize that object through marks and characters. As an example, let's say you have your own ski, okay, in the ski resort. You have about 100, 150 all lying up. But somehow you make a little mark on your ski, only that you know, very distinct, that nobody makes. Through that mark you can find from that 150 yours very easily. In other words, you make a marking that you could recognize, you could remember, you could identify. That's perception. Through a certain marks, certain characters, you remember, you cognize that object. That is called perception. But you have to have that on everything that you come in contact with, every object, aggregates of perception. And the fourth one is Sankhara Khanda. So that's called aggregates of mental formations. Okay? Aggregates of mental formation. In short, what it is the volition. Your volition is the aggregates of mental formation. So volition is a little bit more of a word that maybe this or maybe that. So let's go more precise. Putting concern or having concern or intention, okay? Putting concern or having concern or intention on an object, okay? You have a concern on an object. You put concern on an object, okay? You have intention, a certain mode of intention on the object. That is Sankhara Khanda. On a practical way, that's what it is. You look at the object, okay? to look at the object, you have to have an intention to look at the object. If you don't have intention, you would not look at that object. You will pass over that object. That intention, that concern you applied onto the object is sankhara khanda. In a very practical way, what you are exactly doing. That's number 4. Number 5 is vijnana khanda, aggregation of consciousness. Aggregate consciousness is simply knowing, okay? Knowing or awareness of the object without anything extra, simply direct knowing. Okay? It is not the beautiful object or ugly object, nothing. Simply there is an object and you know there is an object. That simple awareness, simple knowing of an object is vijnana khanda, aggregates of consciousness. Those are the 5s. And the Buddha said, explore into these 5 aggregates, investigate into the 5 aggregates, travel into these 5 aggregates, and you will find the end of the worlds. So that's a sutta. That's what Buddha told the Rohitassa Sutta, Rohitassa Deva. So if that's the case, look at it. What it is, we are doing Satipatthana Vipassana meditation. Satipatthana Vipassana meditation, what are we observing? Rising, falling. Okay? Rising movement, falling movement. Rising of the abdomen, falling of the abdomen. That's what you're observing as a key object to start with, to base with. But not only that, and any other object that comes along. Sometimes other objects dominate that rising, falling, and you're not aware of the rising, falling. You might be aware of a sound, you might be aware of a smell, you might be aware of a thought, you might be aware of a pain. Whatever that has come on, one must be aware, 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 mindfully aware, deeply aware, penetratively aware. That's it. At the moment, that's what we are practicing. So, if we are aware of anything and everything that is happening in the body, that means we are always investigating into this world of 5 aggregates. What the Buddha taught is a Satipatthana Vipassana meditation to Rohitassa Sutta, but the way he posed or the way he put it is totally different based on the individual or a group of their intelligence. He explained in a different way. So if you are practicing this mindfulness insight meditation, you are exploring, you are traveling into the worlds of these 5 aggregates. So let's see the 5 aggregates. Of course, in general, we say in this body, you look at it. But more specifically, more clearly, where can you find in this body? In the eyes, in the ears, in the nose, on the tongue, and all over the body, outside, inside of the body. Those are the doors. Eye doors, ear doors, nose door, tongue door, body door. In those 5 doors, you can see, you can feel, you can experience distinctly about these 5 aggregates. So let us take one and see in detail how it express or unfold. Let's use the eye door. Okay, eye door. Through the eye, through this eye door, what do? You see an object, a form. Okay, that form that you see and the eye itself is rupa, materiality. Okay? So when you are seeing, you see with your eye, you see a form. That eye and the form is the aggregates of materiality, rupa khanda. Okay, now you are seeing it. And when you see it, what happened? The moment that you see, based on whatever that object is, based on its quality, character, nature, you have a feeling. Oh, beautiful, pleasant feeling. It is ugly, unpleasant feeling. Sometimes so neutral feeling. You feel automatically, and that feeling is aggregates of feeling, vedana khanda. And then also, now you look at the object. When you look at the object, what happened? What happened is, you remember, you cognize through a certain thing, okay, a certain marks that you put in. Okay. The way you remember somebody else you have seen a week ago, how tall, how short, what color, what marks, what eyes. With those marks, you remember that person if you see again. So, whatever object that you are seeing, whatever object that is, you cognize it through its marks, through its nature, character. That is aggregates of perception. It's all happening at the eye door, just from the eye. Right at the eye door, there's rupa. From the eye door, you have feeling. From the eye door, you cognize the object. And sankhara khanda. How does sankhara khanda comes in? What you do is, when you are looking at the object, okay, when you are looking at the object, if you don't have intention to look at the object, you will not be seeing it. Okay? You will pass over it. For example, let's say in downtown there are hundreds of people walking around, you are also walking, and you see everything and you see nothing because you don't put any attention on anything or any person. Okay? But suddenly there's somebody that you cognize, sanya khanda, somebody that you know comes in. Suddenly attention goes in. The attention goes in and everything is focused and flow in that direction onto that person. Intention or attention goes onto that person. That is sankhara khanda. You are volition, you are starting to do something. You are creating a change of events. That is sankhara khanda. The intention, having concern onto that person, onto that dog, onto that cat, is sankhara khanda. And then, of course, knowing, being aware or knowing all that person, this object, that object. Simply awareness. That is vijnana khanda. So this is just simply from the eye door. From the eye door, all these things arises. And all these things are what? They are all 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates. Pincha khanda. At that moment. So you must be fully aware, and each and every one is, whenever you are aware of it, you are exploring into that phenomenon. You are exploring into the phenomenon of feeling, you are exploring the phenomenon of materiality, you are exploring the phenomenon of volition and concerns and actions that you apply. But you must be exploring, you must be investigating at that precise present moment. That's how one has to do it. So, now we are looking at it, we are seeing it. In terms of practice, when you see something, what do? We say or we note or we label seeing, seeing, seeing. Let's say you saw something, saw the camera there. Simply seeing, seeing, seeing. Okay? Seeing, seeing is what? Precisely what seeing meaning is. There's an object, that object come in contact with the eye. Okay? There's an object, there's a receiver is the eye. Object is the striker, the eye is a receiver, and then the third one is awareness. The object, the awareness, and the retina in your eye. When they coincide, seeing happen. Simply just that, no more, no less. And when you say seeing, you must be at that kind of a condition. Seeing, 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 without anything else. So we see seeing, seeing, seeing. Why? Why do we note as seeing, seeing, seeing? We always say in the meditation, especially seeing, seeing, hearing, hearing, walking, walking, and so on and so forth. Why do we say seeing, seeing, seeing? Because first and foremost, if there's an object to be engaged into the seeing, you have to aim at that object. I have to aim at the camera. Aim. If I don't aim it, if I'm aiming something, I would not see it. If I aim at the camera, then seeing happen. So at the moment of seeing, there's a aiming process. And at the same time, at the moment of seeing, there's a actually seeing. Actually seeing, and you know that you see. There's a aiming, and there's a knowing. You aim and you know. And this aiming and knowing are happening together at the same moment. Okay? You aim at the object and you know that's an object. Aiming and seeing. This aiming and seeing, you know the object, you aim the object. When this aiming and seeing arises, okay, that is, what happened was knowledge. Knowledge about the process arises. Aim and see. So I have a knowledge about this camera. Just simply knowledge. But if you keep on continuously, without interrupting, okay, deeply keep on looking at it, keep seeing at it, keep looking at it, seeing, 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 seeing. And if you can sustain that seeing process, the object, the eye, and the awareness, if you can sustain it continuously, eventually wisdom will arise. First of all is, the first moment is knowledge arises. But if you can sustain that seeing process continuously, observe that object in the mode of seeing, 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 the wisdom will arise. And then when the wisdom arises, what happened? At that moment, kilesa stop. That's a process. You aim. At the moment of aiming, okay, you know. When there's an aiming and knowing, the knowledge arises. And if you can keep on sustaining that seeing process, okay, focus into it, keep penetratively go into it, eventually that knowledge will become a wisdom. And when wisdom arises, wisdom eliminates the kilesa. What is kilesa? Mental defilement, lobha, dosa, and moha. That is eliminated. So that is what exactly is happening, and that is what exactly what we are doing. So now, let's see, we already say wisdom arises and kilesa stop. How come? How can it be? How can this vipassana wisdom can eliminate kilesa? Wisdom means vipassana wisdom. How can this vipassana wisdom eliminate kilesa? Kilesa always arising. So let's see. So when we see an object, what do? We say seeing, seeing. Okay? We say seeing, seeing after we have seen the object. Okay? But if the observation, let's say camera, if the observation is continuous, okay, it is not about, we are far deeper stage now. It's not about, let's say, oh, the camera, the tripod, the black, the screw, the color, that is the beginner part. You try to see every little details. That is the beginning stage. Later stages, you just simply to the point of seeing, 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 seeing. Object, retina, awareness. And if you can sustain, if you can keep on pushing that seeing, what happened was at that moment concentration arises. First of all, it is simply pure awareness, and then if you can sustain it, then suddenly what happens is concentration arises. When the concentration arises, what happened was it changes. What it changes is seeing, seeing, seeing. You just staring at something. Now, without going into like nitty-gritty and trying to interpret and analyze and put and structures and apply with concept, nothing. And at that moment, the object will represent to you differently. Right now is the object representing very clearly tripod, black, camera, lenses. But if you keep focusing and seeing, 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 the objects become slowly and slowly, it becomes blur. Obscure, okay? Because you are not going into anything. You are not going into any desire, interpretation, analysis, reflectiveness. Simply seeing, seeing, and you see it, and suddenly the object becomes blur. When the objects become blur, what happens? That is the time. Okay? That is the time you are in a insight level, you are in the mid-level of the insight level range in there. So, as the object is blur, you do not have any attachment to it. You do not have any reflectiveness to it. And if you do not have any attachment to that object that you're seeing, because it is blur, it is like in the fog, it's just like a shadow, nothing to grasp on. You have no attachment. When you have no attachment, at that moment, kilesa stop. So I'm trying to give you the detail, but near the end part, how the end part come in and vipassana wisdom arises and how it eliminates. That's why some of the yogi reports it, okay. Oh, they are doing walking meditation. Somebody walked by. They know somebody walked by, but they don't know who that is. They don't know who he is. They don't know who she is. They don't even know the gender of it. Simply a shadow moving away. But it is somebody that you know, but you are in your focus so much, in your concentration is so much, everything becomes blur because you do not have, okay, specific desire to focus and to look and to investigate in a normal way. Simply seeing, seeing, seeing. That person walked by is blur. When that person walked by is blur, how can you have attachment to that person? How can you have concern to that other? How can you think any thoughts related to that person? What he did, what she did, what he didn't do, what she didn't do. Nothing arises because in a state of blurriness. That is, you can call it vipassana wisdom arises. And some of the practice, they will see, there are some story, is a person walk by, don't know man or woman, sometime depending on the samatha power strong, all that they see is a big skeleton walking by. And they're grinning is that the skull and the teeth, that kind of thing. And if you see that way, how can you become attached to it? When there is no attachment, when there is no craving, there is no suffering, there is no kilesa. That's how one arises into that mode. That is how vipassana wisdom arises, and that's how one eliminates the kilesa, mental defilements. That's from the eye door. In the eye door, you will see at one of your stage. You are seeing, but you don't see. You are aware of it something, but you don't have any specific. It's blur, it's obscure, it simply is, and there's nothing to hold on, nothing to get attached. That's why no kilesa. That's through the eye door. Let's go to the ear door. Okay, ear door. But in general, you already know, so we won't go into too details. Ear door. What can you find in your ear door? At the ear door, you find hearing. And what is hearing? Hearing is there's a sound. Okay, the sound travels and hits your eardrum or the hair in your ear. Okay, it hits. That sound is the materiality, aggregates of material, outer, external aggregates of material. That eardrum and the hair is the inner material aggregates. So this both sound and the ear is the rupa khanda, aggregates of materiality. And when you hear that sound, based on the nature of the sound, you feel pleasant, you feel unpleasant, you feel neutral. That is aggregates of feeling, vedana khanda. And then through a certain mark, a certain voice, okay, you have a liking to Pavarotti, classical, and suddenly a certain sound, a certain wave, a certain tone you automatically remember. The sound comes and you automatically remember, know, cognize. That is sanya khanda. Okay? I'll go a little farther. Simply hearing and knowing is sanya khanda. But when you have the intense, okay, focus on the sound, intent focus on the hearing process, hearing, at that moment, that sanya or perception, automatically that becomes the cause, and the effect is sati, mindfulness. Sanya, perception is the cause, sati, mindfulness is the effect. All that it is your focus is deep, penetrative. Suddenly, sanya becomes sati. Perception becomes mindfulness. That's what it means by noting, recording. When you note repeatedly on the same object, then it becomes mindfulness. Just a little showing how one related to the other. Go sanya khanda. And then putting concern, putting attention onto that sound is sankhara khanda. Okay? Aggregates of mental formation. That awareness, simple, pure awareness of the sound is vijnana khanda. So in here, right there, at the ear door, you have all these 5 aggregates, and you are experiencing one after the other according to the nature, according to the dominant part of the aspect of the aggregates. You are aware, you are aware, you are aware, but you're aware, and when your awareness becomes very focused, very concentrated, continuous and repeatedly put effort into it. In other words, these 5 aggregates are working and churning, but focus is so much there, concentration arises. When that concentration arises, the wisdom arises, vipassana wisdom arises. Okay, I won't go the very beginning part, middle part, but how does that vipassana wisdom and the ear is like? How would you experience it? At that level, as a vipassana wisdom, the sound, it simply seems like happening only at that ear hole. It is, the sound is not from a far distance. The sound is not to hear. Before you got to that stage, you have to go through many processes. Very loud sound, you hear very, very faint. And very faint sound, you might see very here, but sharp and clear, wave, vibration, all these things. These are the step by step by step. But eventually at that vipassana wisdom stage, you hear only at the ear hole, or let's call it ear door. You hear that very faintly. You hear and it disappears. The sound may be like an army marching, but you only hear just simply there the sound because you are so focused into it. And if you hear like that, then you are having a vipassana wisdom in terms of hearing based on the 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates has to play in full. And if you hear and disappear, you have no attachment to it. No feeling arises. And when you have no attachment to it, there is no kilesa arises. No lobha, no dosa, no moha. That's how it happens. And let's go to the nose, smell. The smell is aggregates of materiality. The nose is the aggregate of materiality. Okay. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral smells, the aggregates of feeling. And how you cognize whether it's a curry smell or it's a skunk smell or a rose smell, how you cognize, that's aggregates of perception. And then the intention you put towards that smell is the aggregates of mental formation. And the pure awareness of that smell is the vijnana khanda, aggregates of consciousness. Those are 5 aggregates, right? Smell on the point of smelling, smelling, smelling. And if you can totally focus and concentrate it on that point of smelling, smelling, smelling without any interruption, what happens is, at that moment, the smell arises. And the smell doesn't linger on, and the smell simply disappears, lingers on. Okay, when the lingers on is, what does it mean by linger on? Let's call, you go into a restaurant, you eat for about an hour, you come back out, and you get home, you can smell food on your clothing. It lingers on. Like that, sometimes based on your pleasant or unpleasant or attachment, that smell lingers on. But at this point of vipassana wisdom, you smell, it has no lingering effect and simply disappear. If that's the case, if it disappears, nothing to hold on, there's no attachment. If there's no attachment, there's no kilesa, no lobha, dosa, and moha. That's the nose. Let's go on the tongue. The tongue and the food that comes in, aggregate of materiality, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feeling, aggregates of feeling. How you recognize whether it's a chili or curry or cheese, that is the aggregates of perception. The intention you put, attention you put, concern you put in that taste is aggregates of mental formation. Awareness of that taste is aggregates of vijnana khanda, aggregates of consciousness. And how does the vipassana wisdom arises at that stage? How would you be experiencing? At that moment, let's say you are at that vipassana wisdom level, the tastes come in. That's not just one taste, there are many, many subtle tastes there. Sweet, sour, hot, and so on. You can distinctly taste each and every flavor. They arise and they disappear, they arise and they disappear, one after the other successively. Every taste you can see, you can taste, but simply they arise and they disappear on your tongue door. Because of that, you do not have any attachment to any taste that you are eating, any food that you are eating. And that is how kilesa is eliminated and uprooted in terms of tasting, tasting, tasting. The body touching. The material that touch and the body itself is the aggregate of materiality, rupa khanda. Sensation that you feel, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, aggregates of feeling. The way you remember, poking feeling, hard feeling, soft feeling, nice feeling, fluffy feeling, aggregates of perception. The intention that you put on that feeling, touch, is the aggregates of mental formation. Awareness of that feeling is consciousness. And at the stage of vipassana wisdom, anything, everything, whatever is being touched, at that moment you simply feel vibration, pure vibration, pure movement without form. Pure vibration, pure movement without form, simply vibration. That is touching, touching, touching. And if it is just simply a pure vibration and pure movement without pleasant or unpleasant or whatever the other natures may be, if that's the case, you cannot develop attachment to it. And if there is no attachment, there is no mental defilements. Kilesa is uprooted. So, these five aggregates, they become very distinct at the five doors. And if you can observe, if you can be mindful, as Buddha taught, and if you have reached, if you can develop that vipassana wisdom, at that moment of experience, at that moment of arising and passing away, you will never ever have a kilesa, mental defilement. The body touch, simply movement. Headaches, you have headaches. Movement, you have very high pressure on your head. That's simply a movement. You have agitation and irritation. Simply movement. Everything is a movement in there. Whatever is happening in them, accordingly you see in their own nature. When you see in their own nature, what happens is no attachment develop. When there is no attachment, no mental defilement or kilesa can arise. So that's how it's developed. When you're observing, you put it in a different way. At that moment, you are experiencing anicca, impermanence. You can call it impermanence. You can call it states of flux, state of change, constant state of change from one to the other, or constant disappearance. And the oppression of the state of change. You can experience dukkha. And you see there's nothing you can do about it. There's no control over it. There's anatta. You are experiencing these things. And at the same time, as your observation is continuous and constant, concentration develops. Vivasta, wisdom, insight arising, anicca, dukkha, anatta is arising. And then you will be experiencing one insight after another, one insight after another. In other words, the true nature of the mind and matter, you'll be experiencing one after the other. You just keep observing. You just keep developing this mindfulness, concentration, and vipassana wisdom. And then everything you see like a flow. What flow is that? This flow is the objects arising and then knowing. Objects and knowing. Objects and knowing. Simply objects and knowing. You have no attachment onto the object. You have no attachment onto the knowing. And object, knowing, object, knowing, object, knowing. And suddenly, at one point, both the object and the knowing ceased. You are not aware of anything. You are not aware of any object. You have no knowing. Through that concentration and vipassana, repeatedly, persistently, diligently observing, eventually the object that you are observing and the knowing of the object both ceased. And that is the cessation of mind and matter. That is the cessation of nama and rupa. That is the cessation of this body and consciousness. That is the end of the worlds. There's no more world exists. Nothing exists. The end of the worlds. But you're not dead, you are still alive. But at that moment, you have experienced the end of the world. You have found the end of the world. Because all mind and matter cease to exist. May all of you be able to practice this exploration into the 5 aggregates, mindfulness, insight, meditation, and may you be able to experience the cessation of mind and matter, the end of the worlds, as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddham vijayami. Dhammam vijayami. Sangham vijayami. Thank you very much.